All right, this is the October 13th Transit Technical Advisory Committee. Let's go ahead and get started with introductions. I will just read off the names. I'll read off the names of each agency as I usually do, and then if folks from that agency could introduce themselves, that'd be great. Let's go ahead and start with SCTA. I'm Dana Teray.
Oh, sorry. Suzanne Smith.
Drew Nichols.
And Santa Rosa City Bus.
I'm Rachel Eve.
Matthew Wilcox.
And Petaluma Transit.
Jared Hall.
And Marin Transit.
Good morning, Robert Betts, and I have invited our manager of planning and marketing to start joining these meetings, and I'll let Ida introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ida Bani Hashemi. Nice to meet you or see you if I have met you before.
Welcome. And Smart.
Hi, Emily Betts from Smart.
Golden Gate Transit.
Good morning, it's David Davenport. And I see Jacob as well.
Jacob Brown's on the list as well. And Caltrans.
Hi, this is Orlando Ramirez with Caltrans District 4.
Great, thank you. All right. Moving.
And Sonoma County
Oh, I'm
Transit.
so sorry. Transportation Land Use Coalition.
Go ahead, Brian. I'm Stephen Schmitz, Sonoma County Transit.
Sonoma County Transit too. Sorry, there was a few of you I missed.
Brian Albee, Sonoma County Transit.
All right, and Transportation Land Use Coalition. I see Stu Bertelbaugh as well.
Hello, everyone.
Hello. Did I miss anyone else? All right. Let's move on to item number 2. We have one more person just joined. Joel, would you mind introducing yourself? We're just doing introductions. So Joel, if you would not mind unmuting yourself and introducing yourself. Okay. Well, let's move on to approval of the meeting notes from September 8th. Does anyone have any comments or corrections?
Move to approve.
Okay.
All right, second.
Yep, second.
Great, thank you. Item number 3, we just included the guidelines for the Transit Intercity Rail Program Cycle 5. I think you're all aware that those the schedule for the application process, but we wanted to get a sense of who is considering applying, and if, you know, especially if the bus agencies have considered applying. I don't know if they have in the past. Kind of, we'd like to understand why or why not, and if, you know, try to get a sense if there's anything we could do to help make that easier. So I will just open it up, and Suzanne, if you wanted to add anything on this, go ahead as well.
No, I think we were curious. You know, the SCTA recently did a call for projects and got great projects from the transit operators. I mean, you know, those public works guys too, but from the transit operators, and was one of the reasons for doing the call for projects the way we did is to understand what the priorities are for each jurisdiction, and then figure out if there are ways we can use sort of both the money that we have some control over, and then use that to leverage these outside grants. And so was curious if anyone was looking at applying, and if so, for what, or how we could help, and what sort of match or leverage opportunities there might be. So that was it.
Well, I think we're going to look at it this time. We haven't applied in the past. I don't know that it's that we have super competitive projects, but I mean, it's certainly on our end. If we did move forward, it would be for electrification related projects. So we're sort of evaluating it, but I'm just gonna be honest, our bandwidth has been so low over the past few weeks to like really understand whether it's a good opportunity for us and worth pursuing, that I just don't have a good call on that. I'd be interested to hear what other folks are thinking. But if we did move forward, it would be for electrification related projects that as similar, or actually the same projects we submitted for the SCTA
Right.
call.
Yeah, I would echo that. Us would be the same. I don't know if it really is relative to the bus rail service. As Emily can contest, we're looking for operating funds to operate a shuttle between the airport and the smart airport station, but we don't really need capital funds. We need operating funds. So.
Okay.
That's right. Yeah, so I'm sure SMART is applying for TIRCP, but I would have to check with Joanne to see what she has in mind. I'm curious what it is eligible for bus purposes. I see that you can use it for feeder bus purposes. And there probably is some potential for that increase in the county, which we would love to talk with you about or collaborate on. And Brian's correct. We are trying to do some problem solving just to close the gap between the airport station and the airport. Capital funds might not hurt, but yeah, we're really going for operating funds right now.
Yeah, just on very brief glance of the guidelines, it looks like operations expansion can be included. I'm not sure, the technicalities and how you need to prove that something is expanded service.
This is Jacob from Golden Gate. We're probably going to apply, and we've been working a lot on trying to optimize the scope. You have to demonstrate a competitive project using that greenhouse gas quantification tool. And CalSTA, we spoke with CalSTA, and they really encouraged us to this really big, bold vision for electrification of the organization. And the problem is when we put those numbers into the tool, they're really bad. It's too expensive. So now we're looking at scaling back, especially the ferries. The ferries are very expensive relative to the benefit. So we're looking at scaling back to more of a smaller bus electrification kind of demo project, possibly. But we also spoke with them about that expansion question, saying, we're clearly not expanding right now. But they said that like optimization of routes to become more efficient is something that is, and I'm not exactly sure what that looks like, but it's something that they were talking to us about. So just putting that out there.
And Dana, remind me, is this an annual or every other year program?
It's annual,
or
but
anybody?
maybe somebody else knows better. It is annual.
I'm looking at the website right now, and it looks like they made awards in 16, 18, and 20. So it looks like it's every other year.
Have any of the agencies received these funds recently?
Sorry?
Smart did.
Smart did? When was that? What was that for?
Let's see, a wheel press and I think some new rail cars, and we've received a few of them. And we have some money for, what are they calling it? Network integration, which is very vague, but basically trying to improve the connections between services in the North Bay and beyond. So I think we've received 3 of these at this point. So I'd have to get a whole list, but I never realized that these funds were available for bus. without the connection to rail. So that's interesting.
If you look at the website, you can see some of the projects that were awarded in 2020. There are some bus projects, but they're capital, obviously, but they're mostly expansion type projects, not necessarily replacement, which is not necessarily what we all need right now. So.
Are you able to tell if they have ties to rail systems or not?
I didn't hear you, Jared. What?
Are you able to tell if they have ties to rail systems, as in, is that a requirement of the funds for the bus service elements?
Just, I haven't looked in depth enough to verify that or not.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't see that when I took a look at it. It looked like for bus, it could include capital expansion like BRT or transit stations or other capital projects. Like larger scale orders of zero emission buses or operations expansion. Possibly that includes capital, but I'm not sure if that capital piece is a requirement. Also transit integration projects were eligible as well.
Sounds like something maybe, if not this round, next round, we should, and I don't know if there are hurdles to like a joint application, if we wanted to do an electrification or integration phase 3 or, you know, something like that. That might be something just for us to all keep in mind.
All right. Does anyone have anything else on this topic? Not. Let's move on to the MTC Blue Ribbon Transit Recovery Task Force Public Transit Transformation Action Plan. This is a standing item, and I will just open it up for discussion if anybody has anything on this topic. All right, I know that it's been adopted and there's less going on now, but we've kept this as a standing item. What is the sense about keeping this on as a standing item, or does it not seem necessary anymore?
I don't know if we need it as a standing item. Maybe as relevant items come up topically, we could add it in, is my thought. I know for the moment, the big piece are still sorting through, which has a lot of back and forth, is the transit network management structure, what that looks like. That seems to be the bulk of the current efforts with it.
Maybe it could transition to an item about the network management. I have been asked to serve on a committee that has not yet met, and I forget the name of, so it's great. But it's about the next steps for Blue Ribbon Task Force. It's large operators, I think one small operator and one MTC, and then one transportation authority. So I'm there representing my 8 colleagues, but also the North Bay, because there's not a North Bay person per se on there, other than Golden Gate has some representation. So they've not convened, like I said, they have not convened a meeting yet, but it is related to the next steps with transit network management. So I can report out on that, or take input or have discussion if that's helpful.
I think that would be good. I mean, there's a lot of stuff getting teed up right now, and it's a little bit unclear like what's going to be first out of the gate and where the focus is going to be, but definitely on the network management. And I'll just note, I think several people in this group were on the small operators call yesterday, but there's an MTC workshop on October 27th and 28th with the commission that looks like it's really about kind of charting the course and the priorities to move forward with the transformation action plan recommendations. So I think it'll be interesting to track kind of what comes out of that. where the energy and emphasis is going to be in some of the other areas, like fare integration. Sorry.
Yeah, no, and I think the the small operators at the small operators meeting, which I missed yesterday, but there's been discussion about what is being proposed as kind of a structure for the network management. So I just, there are definitely, and the concern around some of that structure that I heard, at least from Napa, was, if you're not on that committee, do you just get handed things and you have to accept them? Like, what's the feedback loop on informing things that may come out of that network management? What's it called? Executive board, I think, or something like that. So it's, as a group of small operators, with the exception of Golden Gate, I think having those discussions here and just making sure we're all hearing the same things and getting feedback would be beneficial.
Yeah, agreed. Cool.
Great, thank you. The next on the agenda is a future of transit ad hoc update. I don't believe that the ad hoc has met since our last meeting in September. Someone correct me if I'm wrong, but we do plan to meet at the week after next. And Santa Rosa City Bus had a council workshop yesterday, and I can let them talk about that, but it seemed to be well received.
Yeah, and many of you, thank you for being on the panel yesterday and waiting for it to begin and hanging in there. Yeah, it was, we just took the opportunity with the city council, to step back there. Our mayor is chairing the ad hoc, but he's been reporting out, but we're starting to get into some nitty gritty actions and don't want to blindside or surprise the council with coming forward with action items that they don't have a greater context for in terms of our unified brand work. So we just walked through kind of the scope of work for the future transit process and what we've done so far, what we're planning to do. It was a lot of information, but they seemed appreciative to have it, and not a lot of comment or question, which is, sometimes you kind of want there to be a little bit more discussion, but I think they'd already been at it for a few hours. And so I think it was basically a blanket, like, go forward and make this happen, with full support. So it was good. And thanks again to those of you that were on the panel with us. And Matt, thanks. Well done on the delivery along with Yuri. It's really good.
If I could just add to that, I mean, first of all, good job by the team on that, and I think it was really well received. I'm wondering if we should do that presentation to the SCTA board as an ad hoc report out at some point. Do you think it's too much, or? So my thought is that way Delinda Fisher, who sits on our board, and 3 supervisors see it in case it doesn't get in front of them in the immediate future. They would be up to speed. Plus all the other directors. I don't know when I'd have to look at like November, December agendas, but it's a thought. No enthusiasm for that.
I mean,
that's okay.
It's a lot of information. I guess I would leave it sort of to Sonoma County and Petaluma in terms of, are they planning to do something similar with their board and council, or, sorry, I think Stephen was starting to talk.
I think it kind of depends. We talked about the MOU, and we'll present it to our board when we have the MOU put together and kind of finalized. And then when we have the $750,000, we may have to take some action on that as well. So,
okay. Jared, you're on mute.
All right, similar approach for us as to what Brian outlined.
Okay, then I won't worry about it. Cool.
If I'm remembering correctly, I think we did give a preview to our ad hoc. So they've seen an earlier version, at least. Maybe it's changed a little bit.
A few, you're right. So a portion of the board.
All right. Steve Bergelbaum.
Yeah, I was wondering if there was a recording of what happened yesterday that we might be able to dip into, those of us that really want to get down in the weeds.
Yeah, it's for sure. It's probably already posted, just on the regular. It was a city council study session for Santa Rosa, so I can send out the link, but it should already be. I'm sure, Steve, you're familiar. You're familiar with the Legistar page in Santa Rosa, and so yeah, you can go back. It was early in the 12-hour council meeting.
Okay.
Literally, they finished it over past midnight last night. So we started about 2:30 in the afternoon. So very, very close to the beginning of the day.
Thank you.
So yeah, and I can send that out as well.
You
Good.
said they went for 12 hours?
This is how we roll now in Santa Rosa, every other week for half a day.
Wow.
I was done by 6, so I was okay. Yeah, I mean, I guess my only other thing, Suzanne, to your point is, I think we need to think about, and to sort of Steve's question, at what point, and maybe it is after the MOU and we've got the money figured out and everything, you just start to think about the public viewing on this. And that is one benefit of going to SCTA board, as well as, that it has sort of have a broader audience. But again, maybe it makes sense to wait until we've got some of these loose ends tied up around the 750,000 and all that.
That makes sense.
All right. See Steve Bernabaugh's hand up, but maybe that's from before. Okay, it's down. All right. Well, then let's go ahead and move on to transit operator updates. Sonoma County Transit, do you want to start off?
Sure. Since our last meeting, I think we've finished up our December schedule changes, which will be effective on December 12th. They've been sent off to the typesetter and the run cut's been made and drivers have bid. So we're pretty far along with that process. Other than that, ridership is growing. It's slowly, but it's coming back. We're seeing a lot of K through 12, or I guess middle school and high school kids coming back. So that's good. Not so much SSU and a little bit with the JC, but of course the JC is not really open. So, but we're on the upside, slowly growing. And I think that's about it, unless Steve, you have something.
All right. Thank you. And Marin Transit, would you like to go next?
Sure. So starting with ridership, so in terms of ridership, we continue to see a steady growth. Our system-wide ridership is still down compared to the pre-COVID. We are at about 30% down. And our school transportation was resumed in August, and that also obviously back in school and students getting on the bus has also greatly contributed in the ridership. Other update is that our board in August approved a series of fare promotional and pilot programs. Those will be offered near term, and the goal is basically to offer post-pandemic relief and also promote return to transit. Those include, so starting in October, all rides on local fixed route service are free for older adults age 65 plus and persons with disabilities. This will be a 6-month pilot that we're going to be running, and that will continue through March of next year. In addition to that, Marine Transit will also provide free transit access to eligible families of low-income students. That will be in the form of 3 free 1-month passes that will start the distribution in November. And we will be also offering a free student summer pass next summer. In parallel, we also conducted a survey in early summer, and we figured that a campaign would be helpful. So we're going to be running a fare focused campaign to increase awareness of the current fare assistance programs that we have in place, and as well announcing the new ones that our board approved. So the campaign started in October, and then that will be continued through December. And lastly, our board approved for us to move ahead with a change in service provider for our paratransit and demand response services that will be upcoming in the coming year. So we will be awarding and signing a contract with Transdev that will start on February 1st. I think that kind of is an overall update on Marine Transit.
Great, thank you. And Smart next.
Okay. Ridership continues to rise slowly. We were up 14% between August and September, which could be partially attributed to student ridership. Our youth student was at 18% of our ridership for September, which is pretty good. We're kicking off a procurement for APCs for the trains, which has been, it's been interesting. There actually aren't a lot of commuter rail systems that currently have APC systems. They're mainly on bus, and we all know how problematic that they are on bus systems. So I'm trying to get one that works for the rail cars. That's my goal. So that's going to get probably issued in about 3 or 4 weeks. Let's see. We're working with Amtrak on an interesting project to integrate our ticketing into their ticketing system so that when people go onto Amtrak to book a trip, they can book smart for one of the legs of the trip. And you may know that there was legislation passed last year to allow people to buy Amtrak throughway bus tickets independent of having to attach it to a rail leg, right? So this is going to go alongside that. So if somebody wants to go from San Rafael to Arcata or something, they would be able to go on, book smart up to the airport, and then transfer at the airport to the throughway bus. So that's in the works. I think that's all I have to share for now. Thanks.
Emily, is the Amtrak bus going to serve the smart station in
technicality, Brian, technicality. Yes. So my understanding is that the first step is to work out this ticketing issue, and they're in negotiations with Greyhound to make sure that Greyhound's feelings aren't hurt by this new arrangement. And then once they get that worked out, the planner seems very interested in adding a stop at the airport. And hopefully serving the actual airport as well. And then also moving their Santa Rosa North stop closer to the station. So he seems game.
Good. That's great.
Yeah.
Thanks.
A couple questions, Emily. I'm guessing you'd pay full fare on both, right? There wouldn't be any sort of trans. Okay. And then are the APCs new, or are you replacing existing ones?
No, they would be new.
Okay.
Yeah, most rail agencies at this point, they have APCs installed in the trains when they're buying the train cars, which is probably what we should have done, but that didn't happen. So now we're installing them after the fact.
Great, thank you. And how about City Bus next?
Sure. So I'll let Matt handle the ridership updates, but I think for us, one thing we're really focused on right now is grappling a little bit with what our December schedule changes look like. We sort of overextended ourselves a bit in August, so we've been running the system on a lot of overtime as we continue to staff back up, and it's slow going. So we're grappling a little bit with how much additional service we'll actually be able to restore in December. So more to come on that very shortly, because the window is closing to kind of pin down those decisions. But there'll definitely be some opportunities to make some adjustments and tune up a few things. So more to come on that, but it is definitely a challenge, and we're feeling the hiring challenge as many other operators are right now. But Matt, you want to give any ridership or other related updates?
Sure, kind of in line with what the other operators talked about with general ridership. So year over year, for September, we're up 41%. We actually had 88,000 riders in the month of September. And the driving force behind that is definitely our youth program. So in September, we had about 20,000 rides for our free youth program. And to date, we've had about 45,000 trips with the free youth program. So that's certainly the driver. And it's actually really concentrated on one of our routes. Anyone familiar with our system knows that our Route 1 and 2B are kind of the breadwinners for ridership, but our Route 6, which serves Pioneer High, is really been had a huge boon from the free youth program. It's actually had last month, it had 11,000 riders compared to in July when it only had 4,000. So we've had a major uptick, and hopefully that trend continues as we move through October. And it seems to be the case, looking at kind of the weekly data for our youth program.
And I'll just comment, certainly I think we've all seen increases with the school starting, but one thing that was really interesting to us, I think in July, Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, our youth ridership was about 44% of the pre-pandemic level for the month of July. And, we started the youth program, it ticked up to around 75% in August, and it's at 95%. It was at 95% in September of the pre-pandemic youth ridership. So, some of that, I'm sure to an extent, is that, the youth have to get to school. But we're definitely seeing the combination of maybe it's being somewhat more of an audience that relies on the bus, but also I think with the benefit of the free fares, just a real accelerated recovery of ridership within that group. So that's been really cool to see. And as Matt said, it's interesting to see the patterns of how that's playing out and where we're seeing levels of ridership that exceed with pre-pandemic levels for sure. So, that's a little bit of a bright light. So that's it for us.
Great, thank you. And Petaluma Transit.
Hi, everyone. So for fixed route and paratransit, we're down approximately 40% from pre-COVID levels. They both are continuing to upswing overall, especially on the fixed route side, which is up 55% year to year from a month prior. Paratransit being a bit more volatile as kind of the coronavirus goes in waves. Overall in the uptick, but down some months, up over the past couple months overall. We had a few hardware thefts on some of our buses to where someone external broke into the yard, jumped over the fence, went into our buses, stole some hardware. Fortunately, we got the guy on surveillance footage. It seemed to be a homeless individual in the community. And so we were able to identify him. The police caught up with him. He had at least one of our devices, possibly more. We'll have to see once they have the chance to do everything in intake. But we did some fence upgrades as part of that, some camera upgrades. So hopefully the perpetrator of that was caught and less issues going forward. On a kind of related note, possibly, we've started installing catalytic converter protectors on our buses. We haven't had one go missing, knock on wood, but we're doing this proactively. It's not really an issue on the fixed route with the way the buses are designed, but on our paratransit cutaways, we've been doing it. It's approximately $300 per bus. We have the muffler shop down the street do it. It's kind of a custom design thing they do. It takes about an hour per bus to do. So far, they seem pretty good. We've been happy with the results of it. Just a proactive thing, again, to avoid the larger costs of having those go missing and the service interruptions that other agencies have had. So I'd recommend that. So far, we've had good luck with those overall. We're continuing to update our bus stop design standards to try to make those more consistent. It's something we've been working on for a little bit here. Bike share, the agreement was approved by our city council. I don't think we really had that in the agenda, but that's moving forward. We're hearing back from the vendor right now with the proposed hub locations, as I believe all the other communities are. And so we're meeting with them tomorrow to give them feedback on those locations and describe kind of our permitting process to get that rolling, possibly later this year, probably early next year, I would imagine. I've started the round of our fixed route bus procurements, so hopefully have that more lined up over the next month or two. We're getting 4 electric buses to replace 4 outgoing diesel buses. We're currently sorting through finalization of a vaccine mandate. All the city staff on transit is currently vaccinated. but we're working with the city to come up with a probably contract amendment for our vendor, MD Transportation, that would require all of their employees to either be vaccinated or for them to do regular weekly testing. And so the exact details are being sorted out of that, but that's something where the city's implemented it for fire and PD, looking to implement it for the rest of city employees over the next couple of weeks. And then I've been working a lot with our vendor too on kind of staff shortages, most notably with operators. We lost a couple operators on this side. And so ongoing struggles there, as I'm sure everyone else kind of feels the same pressure. So trying to think outside the box there, you know, I mean, we're doing kind of a compensation analysis to see where we stand compared to other agencies. And then we're thinking outside the box in terms of hiring additional agencies, additional resources that we haven't really tapped in the past, so we can make sure we're shaking every tree to get every, you know, possible person coming in for those that we can. And that's about it.
Thanks, Jared. And Golden Gate Transit.
Sure, I'll go first if that worked for Jacob. I've got several items for you here. First, a quick ridership update. We've seen a small uptick in ridership on our service. It continues to be outside of the traditional commute period. On the bus side of things, it looks like we're trending at about 30% of pre-pandemic ridership levels on weekdays, but at about 2/3 on weekends. So we're, you know, our weekend ridership has bounced back much more so than our weekday ridership. And we're seeing a similar trend on ferry. On weekdays, we're still only carrying about 15% of pre-pandemic levels for ferry. We did just recently increase the amount of morning service on our Larkspur route. So there are now 2 ferries in the morning, providing roughly 45-minute service. And we did adjust one of the trip times to better connect with Smart. I think the Smart train comes in around 9:30 or so, and so we moved the trip time to leave Larkspur at about 9:50 a.m. Sorry, and so that's helped a little bit there. But much like with bus, on ferry, we're seeing that ridership on Saturdays is doing very well. We're at about 80% of pre-pandemic levels on Saturdays. On Sundays, we're at about 60%. So we're seeing this if you really dive into the bus numbers as well, where much of the bounce back has been on Saturdays specifically and less so on Sundays. And this past weekend, we did have Fleet Week. And so that was a benefit to our ferry service where we carried near pre-pandemic levels, very close, I would say, you know, roughly the same as pre-pandemic levels of ridership this past weekend on ferry. So that was nice to see. And these numbers, of course, exclude our service to AT&T Park or Oracle Park, whatever it's called this week. So that's, you know, that's above and beyond the numbers that we're looking at. Our next service change is December 12th, just like Sonoma County Transit. The big thing for us is renumbering of our routes so that we are not in the same sequence as all of the local transit operators that we overlap with. So we will be using 100 series numbers. Route 101 remains Route 101. The other 6 bus routes that we have left will be renumbered. We actually did decide that Route 40, which is our East Bay service, will be numbered Route 580 rather than 180, just because there's that nexus with the highway number there. So it's easier for people to understand where that bus goes. So on the Sonoma County side of things, Route 101 is still Route 101, as I mentioned. And then Route 72 will now be Route 172. Now, that's an easy switch. Some of our routes in Marin County, the number is a little bit more different than you would expect. In terms of actual service changes for December beyond the numbers, not much is changing. We're going to pull out one of the early morning trips on Route 72, soon to be 172, and have that arrive in San Francisco at 8:50 a.m. rather than 6:20 a.m. It seems that there's some shift in demand based on people, I think, working still modified schedules if they are going into the office. We had considered an expansion of commute service for December, which originally was for September and probably June before that. But people still aren't really back in the office in San Francisco. So we're holding tight. We don't have enough operators to expand service anyway. So hopefully March 2022, we'll see some increase in demand, and that would support some restoration of some more commute service for us, but not for now. As Ida mentioned, Golden Gate participates in the paratransit contract with Marin Transit. So we'll be getting ready for a shift to TransDev as well, which is targeted for February 1st at the moment. On the technology side of things, Van Ness BRT is nearing the completion of construction in San Francisco. So we'll be getting ready to take that on with service in the spring using the new bus only lanes down the center of Van Ness Avenue. We're optimistic that that will help speed up service. SFMTA implemented bus only lanes on Mission Street this past year, and that helped as well. And those have been made permanent. So some improvements are being made this fall to Mission Street as well. So those two, along with the new HOV lanes on Lombard and Richardson, really provide an almost exclusive bus only access between the Golden Gate Bridge and downtown San Francisco. So if and when people return to commuting to San Francisco, they should have a much more pleasant commute experience within the city of San Francisco. But on that note, we are actually in the process of figuring out what TSP equipment we need on our buses. So I believe Maurice Palumbo has reached out to some of you about that, just to make sure that we're all on the same technology page. But obviously we're obligated to use the same system that Muni does, since Van Ness BRT is their lanes. We will probably implement TSP on just a portion of our fleet, since our service levels are still so depressed. So getting TSP equipment for 50 or 60 buses is a lot cheaper than getting TSP equipment for 147 buses. So we'll see how that goes. A couple more things. Bus stop update. We're still going through a process of updating our bus stop signs throughout our system to reflect our decreased service footprint. We just did a round in Sonoma County with Steve and Jared to cover up some Golden Gate markings at bus stops we no longer serve. And then I'm going to be doing an encroachment permit to pull out an unused shelter in the city of Petaluma. And let's see, two things related to that. I guess Rachel, would I reach out to Yuri about updating the route number signs at Santa Rosa Transit Mall?
Yeah, that's fine. That's a bigger conversation, but he'll plug you into the right folks. Yeah. So why don't you start with him? He's kind of our bus stop guy. So.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, there's instead of 72, 74, and 101, it'll be 101 and 172.
Right. Thank you. I wrote that down, and we need to update those signs anyway, actually. So your timing is good. They need to be reprinted just because they're getting shabby. So
good time.
Yeah, if you would just connect with him to make sure it's in our pipeline, that'd be awesome.
Okay, perfect. And then there is a bus stop shelter that we have at Lakeville Park and Ride. We no longer serve that location. So I can reach out separately if you want to Stephen and Jared to see if either one of you are interested in that shelter or not. Otherwise, we'll have to go through a process of removing that one. And I didn't get to you guys about that previously because this shelter was actually installed originally as part of our upfront contract. But they kind of gave the shelters to us because they're no longer interested in them because I guess they don't make enough money for them. So I can send you an email about that one, and we can decide if you guys want to keep it, and we can transfer it over like we did with the one on Petaluma Boulevard North. And then the last thing I have is just a note. Once I'm caught up to speed, since I just got back into the office, Jared, I'll want to reach out to you and just see how things are going with downtown Petaluma routing of the 101 and see if we have some options there to make some changes. So that's a lot from me, sorry, but Jacob, I don't know if you have anything to add.
No, I don't think anything too critical on the finance side. We've got about, I think, 6 audits going on right now, so that's keeping us pretty busy. Prepping for the FTA triennial, and yeah, funding. We're looking at TIRCP, and we're applying for the ARP Additional Assistance Program, as you know, which is why MTC is moving the second tranche proposal forward. And yeah, that's about it for me.
I had a question, David. You mentioned, I think, on the bus ridership being down 30%. Was that down 30% from pre-COVID, or is that at 30% of pre-COVID?
Oh, sure. Yeah, sorry. So which form of numbers would you prefer? Down or where we're at? I can give you those numbers again.
What percent of pre-COVID ridership are you at on bus?
Okay. On bus, on weekdays, we're at 30%. On weekends, we're at about 2/3.
Okay.
David, I had a quick question. Did you say that one of your commute routes to San Francisco was changing on December 12th? Or did I mishear that?
No, that's right. It's just a one trip change, though. We have an early morning trip on the trip out of Sonoma County, and we're moving that into the late morning. So it arrives in San Francisco at 8:50 instead of 6:20.
Okay, which route is that?
That's the 72, soon to be the 172.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Mhm.
Great, thank you for the update. The next item on the agenda
Dana?
is, oh, yes.
Sorry, if I could just add,
Sure.
I think a lot of us use the CALAC MBTA contract for purchasing of the smaller vans and cutaways. Just a heads up that the cutaways are at least 6 months out. Some of them are now 9 months out with the chip issue. And actually the vans we use for our Connect program, which we're starting to shift to, are over a year out. So you may want to build a little bit more time into your replacement schedule.
Couple of related things. Do you know anything, Robert, about the electric paratransits procurement? I think they were doing one. I know that the shelter one expired, but they're about to renew that and give it to Toller again.
I'm pretty sure that's also out. Yeah, I don't know that for a fact, but I'm pretty sure it is available now.
Okay. Sorry, one other question. Sorry for all the questions. Do any of the agencies yet know of any electric cutaway vehicles that are eligible for federal funds that have passed up to now? As of now? No. Okay.
I think AZ Bus has a couple, but I would kind of wait for the OEMs to come out with their version, which is probably going to be in about a year.
All right. Or a year plus a year.
Well, yeah, that's true. Maybe a year and a half or 2 years.
Okay.
All right, next on the agenda is transit fares, including Clipper Start. Is there anything outside of the updates you've given that anybody would like to bring up regarding fares?
We just have Clipper Start extension scheduled for our board on November 2nd. This is the 18-month.
So it's another 18-month extension?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And ours was approved last night.
Okay, great.
Petaluma's is open-ended, so we didn't have a date, so we continue ours.
We also got it approved in our August board.
Great. Any other fare-related items? All right, we'll move on to. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, Dan. I just wanted to give you a heads up. I'm just getting back up to speed now that I'm back in the office, but it looks like there's been a flurry of inquiries from MTC about Clipper 2. So I'm sure we'll be reaching out to dual tag operators with questions as they come up. We're actually Golden Gates in both camps because our ferry service is a single tagged operation. So we get both ends of it.
Are people generally seeing a shift from using the Clipper cards to the mobile app? Any big changes there? Or still the relatively small usage of Clipper, so it's hard to tell.
Yeah, I myself don't really know the data very well. The guy who may know somewhat is Sean. I'm thinking he's not on the call, obviously, but I think he watches the data most closely, at least for Santa Rosa and Petaluma. Is that right, Rachel?
Or Scott. I mean, they kind of share it, but so I could ask. I haven't seen any data on the uptake of the mobile app yet. It's all tiny right now, but it's also something we haven't spent a lot of energy promoting yet. And I think I think we all wanted a little bit of experience with it just to understand it, and make sure that there's not any bugs we're worried about before we sort of promote it. But it looks like a really nice tool, and so I think we'll be planning to do that.
Yeah, I was just going to add that I haven't seen any data that splits the card from the app yet, so I don't know how uptake is. I mean, our passengers are heavy Clipper users, but I don't know what that mix is at the moment. I know, I think on the marketing side, like with City Bus, we were waiting to let both iPhone and Android versions come out and get the kinks worked out before we really, advertised it heavily.
Okay. All right. So the next item on the agenda is the TFCA and TDA3 quarterly reports for Q1 in fiscal year 22. This group's more interested in the TFCA program. So thank you to all the project sponsors for getting your interim reports in, and as well as requests for extension. We have 3 projects that are getting a 1-year extension. So if anybody has any questions, let me know.
One question on the TDA STA front. Brian, I was curious, what are the latest quarterly revenue numbers doing?
Oh, yes, we did get, I guess, the first quarter TDA estimates from the auditors last Thursday. And I think we were up 20%. I'll send that out to the transit operators. So it was very strong, and I can't explain it, but it was the highest. I think it was the highest quarter we've had over the last umpteen number of years. So.
Wow, that's great news. Yeah, I've come to learn to never guess what those numbers are going to be.
Yeah. So I kind of held back waiting for a correction from the auditor, but it's been a week and I haven't seen it. So I'll distribute it.
Great.
Thanks for that, Brian. Any other business comments or announcements? Yeah, Joel.
Hi. I'm sorry I got on a couple minutes late, so I don't know if there was a public comment portion at the beginning.
You can go ahead and make a comment now.
Yeah, well, I just, so my name is Joel Batterman. I moved to Santa Rosa a couple months ago. Mr. Albee, you and I communicated about county transit service. And I guess, I don't know if this is an appropriate forum, but I've been wondering what might be done to better integrate, particularly smart service with bus service in Santa Rosa. It's, I guess I just, it's interesting to me that, that the city buses Route 1 comes quite close to both of the smart stations in Santa Rosa, but doesn't quite reach them. I guess just especially as we kind of come back from COVID, I've wondered if it might be possible to look at ways to better connect those services. I think that would certainly benefit a lot of riders. I mean, it's for me, it's easy enough for me to bike to the train stations, but I also have a baby son, and it would be nice to be able to take the bus to the train station just with a one seat ride, and not have to transfer to another bus. And I think that if we're looking at trying to build ridership on both, I think there are a lot of bus riders who've probably not made much use of the train, and similarly a lot of train riders who haven't made use of local bus service. And I think it's that just seems like an opportunity to me that I'm sure you folks have discussed, but just wanted to put my my comment in about that.
Yeah, and Dana, do you mind if I just take a minute? And
go ahead, please.
that's an excellent comment. And Matt, who's also on the call, Matt Wilcox, is our service planner, and so maybe you guys could connect too. But just on a short answer, yeah, definitely have talked about it. And I think we're restarting our short range transit plan process right now, and I think connections to SMART will definitely be a focus of that. When we first rolled out the new Route 1 service, we had this idea that maybe we could interline the Route 1 and the Route 2 2B, which would give that direct one-seat ride from Route 1 down past the downtown SMART station. Operationally, there were some challenges there, which kind of still exist, but I still think it could really provide a great connection. And then in the opposite direction as well, to take people from Roseland straight up Mendocino. So, that's something that we can look at again. And then on the north side, I think that the biggest difficulty is turning the bus around. And not having a great timely way to do that. So, in some of the long range plans for the city, including the North Station area plan, there is a facility created that would facilitate that connection to the SMART station with a bus turnaround type facility, but doesn't really exist today. So that one's a little trickier just on the capital side and the just connectivity side. But I think it's a really good question, and feel free to connect with Matt and I, and we can certainly further discuss any other comments you have.
Thank you so much.
Great, thank you. Does anyone have any other comments or announcements? All right. Well, thank you all, and we will see you next month.
Thank you.
Thank you.